Whether your first Mario Kart was 64, DS, or even one of the Mario Kart arcade games, it tends to be pretty common that the first one you played ends up being your favorite pretty much every time. For me, this wasn't the case, as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was actually my favorite, but forget Mario Kart for a moment. There tends to be a prevailing idea in modern society that every game, all of music, or just everything in general used to be better, and now it all sucks. And whether or not this is actually true is irrelevant because it seems to just be a part of the human condition. Everything that's new will always be compared to the old, and will only be viewed more fondly as it becomes old. The go-to example I use for this in the video game world is Pokemon Black and White. Everyone hated it when it came out simply because there was an ice cream in a trash bag, but as time passed, everyone started to appreciate the idea that number 1, bad designs have always been around in Pokemon, and number 2, the story and characters from the 5th generation are just some of the best in all of Pokemon. Not to mention the stunning visuals, music, and just overall design of Unova. I bring up Pokemon Black and White because that is exactly how I see people viewing Mario Kart World in the future. If you want more of a Mario Kart example, take Mario Kart Double Dash. Double Dash didn't have the best public opinion at the time of its release, and is only seen more positively as time has gone on. The thing about Double Dash is that it was centered nearly entirely around one gimmick that didn't return in any future Mario Kart games, and I think you can see where I'm going with this. I don't believe that the interconnected map will return in the future Mario Kart games, and I think it's pretty understandable why they took a risk like that when coming up with new ideas for their new game. After all, if the Switch 2 is backwards compatible with the original Switch, then if people end up not liking the new Mario Kart, they can just go back to the old one and play it on their new hardware. This allowed them to take maybe more risks with this installment than they could have with previous ones, and honestly, I admire them for it, even if I don't personally like the new gimmick that much, and trust me, we will get to that. I can understand the thought behind it at least, and appreciate that they tried something different. I think that after the 11 years it's been since the last actual new Mario Kart game, they kind of had to do something like this. If we had to wait this long for a new Mario Kart and it was exactly like previous ones, people wouldn't see the point, especially when the price has gone up from the typical release price. With this part of the argument especially, I'm probably going to seem like a hypocrite from the opinion I expressed in my video about the Minecraft spawn eggs. But in that video, I was never arguing that change is always a bad thing, but that you have to keep at least some of the aesthetics, gameplay, music, etc. to keep some kind of connection to previous games people already knew and loved. In some of those senses, Mario Kart World is an absolute success. I was worried with how some of the Booster Pass tracks looked and that the new art direction for Mario Kart was going to lower in quality, but it seems that with how gorgeous this game is and how creative some of the designs are, even surpassing the amount of detail in the original Mario Kart 8 batch, that those fears were assuaged. The music in this game is some of the best in the entire series, both in quantity and quality. In addition to a lot of the actual track themes being bangers, there's quite a few remastered tracks from every installment in the Mario Kart series, and you'll hear them throughout playing the game. I was absolutely floored when I heard a jazz rendition of the credits theme from Mario Kart Wii, or the new version of the Dolphin Shoals theme just when you thought it couldn't be improved upon. And that's the thing, it's very clear that a lot of effort was put into this game. They could have very easily mailed this one in, and just because I think there was a lot of effort put into the game and I like some of the new additions, the gimmick is something I didn't enjoy. Having the first 2 laps of every race be open roads that are the path to the next race is something that gets really old really fast. Number 1, a lot of it is just boring straightaways with the occasional winding road. They do add boost panels to try to compensate for this, but it doesn't really work that much. When the first 2 laps of every track are not the track, it doesn't really allow you to connect with or familiarize yourself with the tracks. Not helping this was the small amount of time between Mario Kart World's announcement and release. Mario Kart World was teased with the initial Switch 2 trailer, but wasn't officially announced until April, and then it came out in June. Contrast this with Mario Kart 8, which was announced at E3 2013 in June of that year, and had plenty of trailers and small reveals that led up to the release in late May of 2014. Because of the amount of trailers and gameplay footage we were able to analyze by that point, we were already familiar with the game before the release of the game. And that just wasn't the case here. Once you've completed all the cups, only a few of the courses really make a strong impression in your brain. Even some of the retro tracks felt forgettable because of just how little I'd seen of them after beating all the cups. I couldn't really tell you if this game's version of Choco Mountain or Wario Stadium is good or bad because I experienced so little of them. Side note, For some reason they decided to put the retro tracks and the nitro tracks in the same cups in this game, and also get rid of the console names in the names of the retro tracks. I really hope this isn't something that's here to stay in Mario Kart, because having specifically dedicated retro cups is something I think Mario Kart needs to have. Not a huge deal, but I just hope this is a one-time thing. And I really hope they add the ability to turn off the feature where the first 2 laps are the driving to the actual track. It really subtracts from a lot of the experience of playing this game, especially when you could have had the Grand Prix play out like normal and just kept that feature for Knockout Tour. Grand Prix is markedly worse because of that decision they made, and it's such an obvious thing for them to fix that is for some reason not in this game. They could have kept the interconnected world while keeping the Grand Prix mode normal, and I think this game would have appealed to a lot more people. Certainly would have appealed more to me. Especially because free roam is something I found myself enjoying a lot more than I thought I would. I had a blast in free roam, even though I thought I was going to find it boring. It was a pleasant surprise, even if you don't spend a lot of time in the missions. Exploring on its own is still a decent amount of fun. And speaking of missions, free roam is such an obviously good way to reintegrate them into the game. On just about every semi-recent Mario Kart video, it seemed like half the comments were, they should bring back mission mode for Mario Kart DS. And in a way, they basically just did. Just adding more functionality to it, which I really like. Honestly, if the open world aspect was only a part of Free Roam and Knockout Tour, and there was a way to remove it from Grand Prix and online play, my complaints about this game would be minimal at most. But because the interconnected roads have to infect every aspect of this game, I found myself enjoying it a lot less than I otherwise would. And that's so frustrating, because this could easily be the best game in the series with just a few small changes. 24 racers, sure, I can live with that change. Removing kart customization, I'm not thrilled about it, but it doesn't ruin my game experience. But driving only 1/3 of the amount of track I normally would, and spending the rest of the game on I-10, yeah, the game experience is very much lessened by that. Even the drifting physics are something I'm still not sure about. Like, with how much more varied the paths and routes are now, you decide to make every vehicle handle worse than in Mario Kart 8? Some of the decisions they made here honestly baffle me. It's really like they were designing a skyscraper, but one person designed the first floor, one person designed the second, and the third, and so on. But none of these people talked to each other once during the process. Because answer me this, how are they going to add DLC? We've seen all of the map. Are they just going to make another continent that's inaccessible by road from the main one? Are they just going to plop the new tracks in empty spots on the main map? How is this going to work? I really do think the hidden secret of this game that Nintendo is subtly hinting at but not saying outright is my theory about backwards compatibility that I explained earlier. Sure, people might be turned off by the new open world mechanics, but if it truly turns off a person enough to make them not want to play, they still have another option if they bought a Switch too. I kind of think Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is going to have a very active community for quite a few more years, just because of how different these two games are, and it's very easy to divide into two separate camps. I mean, Mario Kart Wii from 2008 still has a community that will probably never go away. And you know what? Sometimes you have to take risks to gain understanding of what new ways you can improve gameplay. At the end of the day, Mario Kart is one of those series that is itself, and doesn't stray too much from its own identity. I applaud the willingness to try something different even if it's something that I personally don't think is good in execution. And let's not forget what I said earlier about people only becoming more fond of things because they're old. When this game is old, will people have the same opinions they do today? I mean, I just mentioned Mario Kart Wii, which is a game that seems very phoned in by Nintendo, with some of the most bland UI and polygonal character models. Just compare Bowser from this game to Bowser from Super Mario Galaxy from the previous year. Almost all the fun and reasons people still play this game today is unintentional. Shortcuts and alternate routes in this game are pretty much all because people found some broken aspect of a track that developers didn't intend to be there. All I'm saying is, think about how public opinion shifts over time, and how the old things we all love might not be as perfect as we remember. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and a subscription. It really helps the channel out, and lets me know what kind of content you want to see on here. Have a good one.